Welcome to Daily Planet. I'm Jay Ingram.
And I'm Natasha Stillwell. On the planet today, plus an enemy in your own home. Mold may be lurking in your house, and we'll check out some of the latest high-tech gadgets to track it down. And speaking of impressive but musty relics, mould can be a problem for decaying mummies, but it's also a problem for those of us in the land of the living. In fact, for many it leads to a litany of health complaints. But it turns out the latest technology, and man's best friend, can go a long way to sniffing out the problem.
Whether we like it or not, molds are all around us. Sometimes they grow white hair on our vegetables, but we also eat them. After all, molds, fungus, mushrooms, same thing. However, molds can be very dangerous to human health, and 80% of them produce no odors, and their spores are invisible. And that means you could be living with these microtoxins. What should you do? You should call in a certified microbial expert. Hey, hi Frank.
Hi Jay.
Nice to see you.
Nice
Come
to
on
meet
in.
you. Thank you.
Come on in. Frank Haverkate is president of Haverkate and Associates. He is a mold hunter. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you.
Before we talk about how you do it, can you give me a sense of what you might find in a mold hunt?
Sure. Well, first of all, molds are all around us. They're in the outdoor environment, but there's a huge difference between molds you would find outdoors and molds you would find in a building that has a mold issue. Typically, when we do these investigations and we find a mold growth source, they tend to be the species that you would normally not find in any great concentration outside. As far as what you would see, you could see some black spotting on a wall. It could even be green or red in color. You really need to get it under a microscope to figure out if it's a species with toxins.
And you mentioned toxins. What sorts of effects on human health can they have?
Well, again, it depends on what species you have and to what concentration. There are molds out there that are fairly harmless, and there are some that people with allergies or immunocompromised individuals or the very young or the elderly might react to. And then there are some that have some pretty serious mycotoxins that you can get some serious diseases from.
Such as?
Well, I mean, the automycosis is an ear infection. You can get bleeding of the lungs. You can get cancer. You can get organ malfunctions. There's a lot of, you can get lesions.
So it's a serious issue. Now, what sort of circumstances allow molds to get into a house where they normally wouldn't be?
Well, you need to have a couple of things. You need to have moisture, and you need to have a cellulose material or a building material that's cellulose in nature. And that would be drywall because it's paper on both sides, wood, cardboard, a lot of fabrics as well. Ordinary dust accumulation can grow mold. And if you have moisture coming in through a roof leak or a foundation seepage or even plumbing leak, or in some cases even really high relative humidity can cause a mold issue as well. So if you have those two, moisture and cellulose material, you could
have
develop.
A problem.
Yeah.
Now you've got a lot of equipment here. Could you highlight a couple of pieces of them for me?
Sure. I mean, what we do is we do an all-around environmental assessment even when we look for just mold, just to figure out the air quality. But for mold in particular, what we would use, one of the instruments is a laser particle counter. It counts the debris load or particulate load in the air, which could be ordinary house dust, but it could also be mold spores.
So that would give you a clue that there might be something.
Well, when we compare to outside levels and compare rooms to other rooms, we'll see which rooms may have a mold issue just from the particle sizes alone.
And what else is crucial for searching for molds?
Well, moisture, and what we have for moisture is a thermal imaging camera that shows us temperature differences, and water is usually colder than the air, so we can see materials that are wet quite quickly.
Could you show me how that works?
Sure. Actually, there was a spot in the front that I'd like to show you.
Okay, let's go.
Great.
So what are you going to show me here, Frank?
Well, here, Jay, is what we saw a problem with the window and how it's installed. As you can see on the monitor here, there's a black area.
Right in the corner there, lower corner.
Correct. That is indicating either air seepage or water.
Now, why is it black?
Because of the temperature variance, this thermal imaging camera shows me temperatures, and water tends to be colder than air.
So how sensitive is the camera?
Actually, it's really sensitive. If you want to see, go ahead and put your hand on the wall. And
okay. So my hand is going to make the wall warmer.
Yeah, the heat's going to transfer from your hand to the wall, and then we'll see it on the camera.
Okay.
And there's your handprint.
Let's see. Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So, Frank, this is pretty much what you do?
Well, I mean, once we've gone through the instrumentation and before we send off the laboratory samples, I do have one other tool that we use. I'll just go get her.
Okay, great. Her?
Come on, Quincy.
Hey, Frank. Who's this?
This is Quincy.
Hey,
She's Canada's
Quincy.
first certified mold detection dog.
Wow. So what does she do?
Well, she's a very valuable tool when we do these building investigations. She's trained like a bomber drug dog, but for mold.
So, Frank, can you show me what she can do?
Certainly. Quincy, ready? Ready for work? Good girl. Seek, 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 seek. Good girl. What did you find? Show me. Show me again. Show me again. Good girl.
So what did she find, Frank?
Well, actually, she seemed alert to this cabinet. Let's see what we have in the cabinet. Oh, she found the mold that we hid in the cabinet.
Oh, so it wasn't real mold contamination.
Not in this case.
You put it there. Now, how sensitive is her nose?
Actually, canines can detect down to parts per trillion. There aren't too many instruments out there that can go that low.
So is it possible that all your other technology might not detect mold, but she could?
It's quite possible because there's so little bit of it here. Laboratory samples probably wouldn't have picked it up either, but she did alert to a possible source area.
Now, Frank, you told me, though, that mold is dangerous to human health, at least. Is she not running a risk?
With detection dogs, they don't ingest any spores. They actually, when they identify, they purge it out of their nostrils. So that's the first thing. The second is she would not come into a building where we would have to wear respirators for our own safety. So if it's safe for us, then she can come in. And she comes in at the end once I've gone through all the instrumentation, so she's quite safe.
Should everyone have this kind of assessment done in their home?
Well, I mean, it might not result in a mold assessment or laboratory sampling, but certainly I think the starting point in every house should be an environmental assessment to see, you know, if you have chemical levels, dust levels, sewer gases. Mold may be a problem, but at least if you have an environmental assessment done and you know what the air quality is like, you can do certain things about it to improve the air quality.
Well, thanks a lot, Frank.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Frank
Thank you.
Haverkate and Quincy are with Haverkate and Associates. You can find them at moulddog.ca.